myenteric plexitis, and this will cause the progressive loss of myenteric neurons, and then this will lead to inability of LES to relax, and that is known as type 2 achalasia, when esophagus pressurization is still there, and subsequently it progress to type 1 achalasia when the esophageal body also becomes flaccid and paralytic. So this is how the achalasia progress, and ultimately, if not treated, it may end up into end stage achalasia. So achalasia is not a single disorder. We have different treatments available at different stages also. Uh, uh, as compared to type 2, type 1, and ENDS case, there is another type of achalasia which has got totally different etiology, and then there is it's a cytokine mediated altered gene expression leading to nitric oxide and acetylcholine imbalance, and it affects the esophageal body also. So there is a lot of contraction, as Dr. Shobna has shown us very nice recordings, and we can see here LES is not relaxing, even esophageal pressure is spastic. So patient is not only symptomatic because the bolus transfer is not there, but also because of the spasm in the esophagus, uh, leading to pain and dysphagia. So here the treatment will not only direct to the LES, but also esophageal body. So type 3 achalasia is a different etiology, different pathogenesis, different site of involvement. So obviously we'll have a different treatment. So now we should know that achalasia is a spectrum of disorders with different treatment at different stages and type. And as we all know, we can never bring back the peristalsis. The defective LES relaxation will be there to stay. We don't have any medicines to reduce the property, to bring back the property of LES to contract and relax again. We can only do the complete paralysis or disruption of LES for palliative measures, and then this becomes an incurable disorder. So we are looking for some of the treatments which allows us to bring back the peristalsis, allows us to do LES relaxation and contraction depending upon the stage of our food swallow. Uh, we are now depending on the palliative measures. So all palliative measures will have their own advantages and disadvantages. So let's start one by one. We can see that these are medical, endoscopic, and surgical treatments available. The most obvious is pharmacological treatment, which all of us use till patients gets ready for more definitive treatments. We use nitrates, calcium channel blockers, phosphodiesterase inhibitors, but unfortunately, the efficacy hovers around 14% to maximum 65%. That too for a short duration, and then some tachyphylaxis and side effects, and patient may not be able to take daily. You can believe that it's a lifetime disorder, 3 times a day to 4 times a day tablets, which is not going to, patient is not going to follow the prescription. So that is why the oral pharmacological treatment is not effective in long-term management of achalasia cardia, and this is the consensus which we did in 2018. So nothing new has come, so it stands there only. The second thing which is commonly used is the Botox injection, where we have seen that there is a selective loss of nitric oxide neurons here, which are relaxing neurons. So there is an unopposed action of acetylcholine secreting neurons. So why not to block this acetylcholine and cause paralysis of LES? And this is how the botulinum toxin works. It blocks it. It is a snare protein. It cleaves this. It attaches to the snare proteins Now, these snare proteins are important for acetylcholine vesicles to be attached to the presynaptic neurons, and then acetylcholine is emptied between the muscle and neurons, and then acetylcholine works. But once this botulinum toxin breaks this protein, syntaxin, then acetylcholine is not released. So that is how the uh, contract, contracted LES becomes relaxed, because there is no more acetylcholine being released. How will you do that? You can inject this Botox at LES by the sclerotherapy needle, and you may have to deposit aliquots of 0.5 to 1 ml in 4 quadrants. Blindly, you may use endosono, and this was the first paper which showed that very good results of LES relaxation at 1 week, but by 6 months, the efficacy fell down. And not only that, the large meta-analysis also showing that by 1 year, the effect becomes almost 40%. So we know that the effect is good at 6 months, but almost fall down to nil by 2 years. So that means that this Botox injection is not a good solution for young people who are good candidates for definitive other treatments. But it can be definitely used in elderly, those patients who are not fit for the procedures. There is failed previous myotomies or pneumatic dilatation, and patient wants some temporary measure. Sometimes may be used in spastic achalasia to give some pain relief. So these are some of the indication, but the bottom line is Botox injection should be reserved for elderly patient, those with comorbidities who are not fit for pneumatic dilatation, LHM or POEM. So this was our consensus statement regarding the Botox. Now we are left with 3 more solution to this problem that we can do balloon dilatation, POEM or Lap-Haller's myotomy. Let us see what is the present status. So as I told, achalasia cardia is a spectrum of disorder, and in achalasia cardia, treatment should be individualized based on findings of high resolution manometry and patient's demographic. Why it is so? Because as I've told you, the type 3 achalasia, the disease not only lies in LES, but also in esophagus. So if you are directing your therapy only or to the LES, obviously you are not treating the esophageal body, and the modality which only work at LES will have a very poor response rate. That is what happens in type 3 achalasia cardia. So if I have a type 3 achalasia cardia on high resolution manometry, I won't even attempt doing the manometer, the pneumatic balloon dilatation. However, the type 2 achalasia cardia responds well, not only to balloon dilatations, but this trend of poor response of type 3 achalasia also is affected the LHM, the POEM, and the balloon dilation. All three perform poor in type 3 achalasia cardia, while type 2 achalasia is early achalasia cardia. As I told you, there is a myenteric plexitis and there is a pan-esophageal pressurization. So as soon as you release the LES pressure, there is good emptying. And if there is a flaccid, the emptying will be very poor. But if the spastic contractions are occurring in esophagus, then even if you relax the LES, the food may not find its way downwards. It may still get, stuck in the mid body. So type 3 responds very poorly. Type 2 responds the best. Regarding pneumatic dilatation, you have to use this Rigiflex balloon, which comes in 3 sizes: 3 centimeter, 3.5 centimeter, and 4 centimeter. In India, most of the people use one balloon dilatation, that is 3.5 centimeter. What we do is we mark the G junction with the, either you can mark with a clip or you can mark with a contrast injection, which we do at our center. This is the LES. Then we pass a guide wire deep into the duodenum, and then you withdraw the scope. The balloon has to be railroaded on the wire, and this middle marker has to be uh, placed right at the marker which you have placed while doing the first endoscopy. And you can see here the middle marker, which has got the two markings there, are coinciding with the marker which we have placed at LES. Then we inflate the balloon, and once you inflate the balloon, there is a waste. You can see that waste, the air in the balloon here, air in the balloon here, and then there is a narrow segment over there. You have to keep on inflating we do 7 to 10 psi, and by the time this waste is gone, and then we wait for 1 minute. So this is a very good method of treating the LES spastic contractions, but it is very, very blind. You inflate the balloon and totally depend on nature whether the mucosa will rupture, whether muscle will rupture, only nature knows. But you are expecting that muscle will rupture, mucosa will not rupture. If mucosa also rupture, that is perforation. So you have to depend a lot. So it's a very, very blind procedure, but it's a very commonly done procedure, very easy to do. But we have predictor of response also. As I shown you that type 3 response is very poor. Similarly, if a patient is young, the response is poor. While if the patient is more than 40, response is better. If patient is male, the response is poor. If it's female, response is better. So I will not choose this modality in type 3 achalasia cardia in very young people. I will try to use something else. So, but if a patient who has say 50s, type 2 achalasia cardia, this is a very good modality to do. But unfortunately, the problem is that because it is an uncontrolled procedure, the risk of perforation is 1 to 3%. Majority occur during first dilatation, and with initial dilatation, 35 mm, if you do, the perforation is much more. Especially once you are dilating in older patient also, you may find more problems. Whenever there is a perforation, it is easy to manage, mostly conservative, but sometimes surgery may be required if there are large leaks. So if a patient is not fit for surgery, one should not do balloon dilatation also, because in 3%, 1 to 3%, if the perforation occurs, we may land into trouble. So that is why the other options has to be thought about. What about the Haller's myotomy? Now, Haller's myotomy was the most time-tested surgery which is available. It started in 1914, which was open Haller's myotomy. By 1990s, we came to lap Haller's myotomy. But with lap Haller's myotomy, you get lot of reflux. We'll talk about it. So it has to always to be combined with partial fundoplication. So on 2000 onward, it is always combined with partial fundoplication. Very good response rate. 1 year, 93%. Subsequently, gradually, the response rate comes down because of many reasons, including fibrosis or progression of the disease. If you are doing fundoplication, the reflux is less, 8.8%. If you are not doing fundoplication, reflux is as much as 30%. Prediction of failure, again, type 3 achalasia, whatever the treatment available, myotomy is the best for type 3 achalasia cardia. But still it fails because lap Haller's myotomy will not cause, not cut the esophageal muscle to longer length. That is why the failure occurs in lap Haller's myotomy also, though we cut up till 6 centimeter, but type 3 requires longer myotomy. While if you are not doing good gastric myotomy also, then the failure occurs. So the ideal gastric myotomy is 3 centimeter. If you extend the gastric myotomy 3 centimeter, the failure rate comes to 3%. The new kid on the block is per oral esophagomyotomy, per oral endoscopic myotomy. I'm sorry about the uh, acronym there. This was described by Dr. Pankaj Pasricha and subsequently by Inouye. Uh, this is a very important new development which has occurred, where you create a submucosal tunnel by cutting the mucosa. You can see the mucosa is being cut. The same goal of myotomy is being achieved orally. Now you are doing submucosal dissection, separating the muscle from the mucosa. You can see this is the muscle, this is the submucosa. You keep on doing this myotomy till you go beyond G junction. As I told, in Laphalers also 3 centimeter gastric myotomy. So these are the spindle vessels, suggestive of that your tunnel has now extended into the stomach, and then you can go up till 3 centimeters, and once you reach to the 3 centimeter, then you cut the muscle. But at the top, because you have done tunneling, you have preserved the mucosa. So you are doing underneath the mucosa. This is the mucosa. In Heller's myotomy, what do? We come from the peritoneal side, cut the muscle, preserve the mucosa. In POEM, same procedure. Cut the muscle, preserve the mucosa, but orally, there is no incision. So this is a Notes procedure. So you can achieve the same results as LHM by doing the oral myotomy, and subsequently the mucosal entry site is closed. So this is the standard technique, can be done in endoscopy suite, no need to do in operating theaters. Very good results. As far as 1 year success initially was, we had 94%. Subsequently, we published our paper up till 3 years, very good response rate of around 87% to 93% in type 1 and type 2. And as I told, type three is notorious, so still less. We also check our response by objective parameters like how much relaxation pressure has come down, how much barium is getting emptied on time barium swallow. All parameters are improving. Even long term is 7 years or more, the success rate is around 88%. The adverse events are there, but in this large series, as you can see, as our experience is gaining, the adverse events are 7.5%, but severe adverse event requiring surgery or prolonged ICU stay these phrenoesophageal ligaments, which are the attachment of esophagus to the diaphragm. If these attachments are natural anti-reflux mechanism because they maintain the angle of phase, and these are very important. While doing Laphaller's myotomy, you may disrupt this and you may cause more reflux. That is why if you are doing very good complete hiatal dissection, door fundoplication, even if you do in this randomized trial, the reflux rate was 23%. While POEM or limited hiatal dissection, you need not to do door fundoplication. When you are preserving the phrenoesophageal membrane, then if you do the door fundoplication, reflux is 8%. If you do not do fundoplication, the reflux is 9%. So no difference. So POEM is very precise. It does not affect the paraesophageal armamentarium, which are very important anti-reflux mechanism. So hiatal dissection is the culprit here. So you have to minimize the hiatal dissection. That is why the initial reflux rates have been described very high percentage. Now we'll go into the details why it is so. The techniques of POEM is also evolving. We are now able to understand what is the anatomy of LES. Now there are two types of fiber. One are horizontally running fiber. These are known as clasp fibers. And they are obliquely running fiber. These are sling fibers. Now, sling fibers are important anti-reflux. You know, they maintain the angle of his, but they do not contribute to the tone of LES. So, disrupting sling fiber is wrong. While clasp fiber, they maintain the LES tone, but they do not cause any disruption of angle of his if they are cut. So, if you preserve these sling fiber, now once you are in tunnel, you can clearly see these are the clasp fiber on these penetrating vessels. On the right of penetrating vessels are clasp fibers, while on the left of these penetrating vessels are the sling fibers. So if you go on to the right of these penetrating vessels, you will cut clasp fiber, which is required, and you can preserve the sling fiber, which are anti-reflux fibers. So don't go on to the left. If you follow this, the esophagitis seen is much, much lesser. So this is two penetrating vessel sign, where we now go preferably on the right side and preserve the sling fibers. Moreover, we are now understanding why this reflux rate is so highly reported. And the reflux, if you're doing an achalasia cardia treatment, there is complete aperistalsis. So the acidification of the esophageal body may be because of true reflux, where there is sudden fall in the pH because the stomach contents come up to the esophagus suddenly, and then there is slow recovery. But because of aperistalsis, the food may get fermented, and then there can be a slow fall. So, or if you are not treated well, the food, suppose I take a acidic food and I have done a POEM or Lap-Haller's myotomy, but my myotomy was not adequate. So that acidic food will stay for some time, and this will also cause acidification. So if you're doing a automatic 24 hours pH metry, all these three will come as reflux. But in fact, if you see a manual reading, you can clearly demarcate between true reflux, fermentation, or stasis, and then treat accordingly. If true reflux is there, you can use PPI or H2 blockers or do anti-reflux procedure. While if there is a fermentation which is occurring, then you can ask person to avoid meals shortly before bedtime, drink more water, or evaluate for esophageal hypersensitivity. While if the stasis is the cause of acidification in esophageal body, you can do a second procedure to reduce the LES spasm, and then this acidification will go away. So this is how we now evaluate acidification in esophagus, not merely saying everything is reflux because of POEM. POEM will not cause reflux much because, as I've shown you, we are doing preservation of sling fiber. Then moreover, there is no hiatal dissection. So it should not occur. And we are now understanding why it has been reported so high. Spastic esophageal disorder, as I told, POEM is the answer, because you can see here there is a lot of contraction in esophageal body, and we have this one. We have to cut the longer esophagus, and that is why, though both are the myotomy, but POEM scores over LHM as far as spastic disorders are concerned. So, per oral endoscopic myotomy should be offered as first-line treatment in type 3 achalasia cardia. Now, I'll just quickly show you some of the data on a head-to-head comparison. So this was the first trial of pneumatic dilatation versus Lap-Haller's myotomy. Both were equally good. and now you can say that why pneumatic balloon dilatation is equally good to the lap Heller's myotomy, but it is not that easy to understand. And I'll just show you what is happening here. Now, this we can see that over years, the lap Heller's myotomy equals to balloon dilatation, but balloon dilatation is required many times. It's not like a simple one balloon dilatation. If you do one balloon dilatation at 1 year, the response will drop to 28%. That means you have to do graded dilatation. That means you can start with 3 centimeter, call the patient after 3 weeks, do a 3.5 centimeter. That is known as graded dilatation. But still by 6 years, it comes back to 44%, while LHM is 84% response rate at 6%. Then why? So this is known as on-demand dilatation. So in these series, there is an on-demand dilatation. Like you do 2 dilatation or 3 dilatation, and if there is a patient has symptomatic, you do 1 more dilatation. So that may not be applicable to country like India, where people travel from a longer distance and may not have an access to the medical facility and may not travel to the hospital again. So pneumatic balloon dilatation is equal to lap Heller's myotomy, but on-demand dilatation. Similarly, there is studies now on balloon dilatation versus POEM. POEM response rate is 92% at 2 years, and 2 dilatations have 54%. As I told, they may require further dilatation to come back to this response. So this is how the status of balloon dilatation as compared to LHM and POEM is. What about POEM versus surgical myotomy, that is LHM? Both are equal. You can see 2 years efficacy is same, but esophagitis is much more than the LHM. But if you go into the details, still we don't have that much time. But if you follow this Lyons criteria, which says that definite reflux is not type A or type B, but C and D esophagitis. And here you can see the C and D esophagitis are same in POEM as well as LHM. So, and acid exposure time also should be more than 6%. And that also was equal in these 2 arms in any JAME study. So practically, there is no difference in a definite reflux between LHM and POEM, but both are equally effective. So in this trial, as far as this trial is concerned, which is a very high quality trial, POEM was non-inferior to LHM, but resulted in more gastroesophageal reflux, especially type A and type B esophagitis. That's all. And I'll just skip this. I'll come back to the last 2-3 slides. Then what is end stage achalasia? Now we have classical sigmoid achalasia, and these are very poor responsive patient, because now they have not been under treatment since long. Esophagus is getting dilated. If esophagus gets dilated more than 6 centimeter, or it becomes mega esophagus, like more than 10 centimeter, and sigmoid esophagus, that means tortuous with axis deviation. Now you can see here, if you do a CT, you will find 1 lumen. So if you do a relaxation here, food will fall with gravity. But if you do a CT and you find 2 lumens, then if you do a relaxation by myotomy here, food will not fall with the gravity. So S2 variety may require, this is the S2 variety. You can see here a CT, a 2 lumens, and a horizontal component. And in such cases, though myotomy has been shown to be effective, but still you may require esophagectomy, but very less number of patients, because esophagectomy is very morbid procedure. So myotomy can be attempted, even endoscopic myotomy like peroral endoscopic myotomy, or even the lap Heller's myotomy, but some people may require transhiatal esophagectomy. So to summarize, I think if we have type 1 or type 2 achalasia cardia, pneumatic balloon dilatation, Heller's myotomy are equal. And the new kid on the block is also equal in type 1 and type 2 achalasia cardia. But pneumatic dilatation, the rider is that you will have to do graded dilatation and on-demand dilatation to be equal to these two. While type 3 achalasia cardia, the winner is POEM only. Even LHM and pneumatic balloon dilatation may not be that effective. So whenever there is a suspected esophageal motility disorder, do a high resolution manometry, then you classify the patient, type 1, type 2, type 3. If these patients are fit for dilatation or myotomy, uh, are not fit for myotomy, you may do the temporary measures like botulinum or pharmacotherapy. But if they are fit, and if the patient has type 1 or type 2 achalasia cardia, you can still offer the pneumatic balloon dilatation because POEM or LHM may not be available everywhere. But if pneumatic dilatation done in a proper way can be equal to these two in this type of. In type 3 achalasia cardia, the first choice is POEM, second choice is LHM, while in hypercontractile esophagus or distal esophageal spasm, POEM is the answer. With this, I will end my lecture, and I thank you for your patience here.
I think it's a great talk, Mohan, as usual. I thought I'll just throw one small question to you. What is the post-poem sequelae? Everybody talks poem now. Now, what happens short term, long term, whatever the long term follow up after a poem?
Setuji, after this question answer, immediately we have to go for the quiz.
Yeah, they're going. Yeah,
Take over
okay.
others, rest of the discussion, please.
I think okay. That Mohan, would you like to quickly answer?
So, like another treatment modality, POEM is also a modality, and it's a palliative modality. So we have to keep a close watch on the patients. They may lose the effect, like there can be fibrosis subsequently 4 or 5 years down the line. There can be 5 to 7, 10% recurrences, or there can be reflux. If there is reflux, patient may be required to be on PPI. And if there is heartburn, then I think a 24 hours pH metry endoscopy is required to assess why the acidification, why the heartburn is occurring. And then if there is a true reflux, then we have to increase the PPI, or then we may have to do some anti-reflux procedures. But if there is an effect which is going to be, there is loss of effect, there is a recurrence of dysphagia, we may offer balloon dilatation or a redo POEM or refer them for LHM. As I told, these are all palliative and they will have their own pros and cons. And if there is problem, we have to tackle it.
Okay, quiz now.
Thank you. So, friends, please get ready for the